Augustia. In this video, I want to share two advanced techniques of working with Brzee, the sound for creating fulfillment, which I'll talk about, that you can also use when working with any mantra and also with any affirmation. So if you don't know about Brzee or Shreem Brzee, just Google or use YouTube Shreem Brzee or just Brzee, Brzee, and Dr. Pillai, Pillai. You can watch all kinds of videos about it. This Brzee mantra is associated with creating money particularly. That's how it's became really popular. But Brzee is much more than just money. Brzee is about creating fulfillment. Shreem Brzee or Brzee is about creating fulfillment. Inner fulfillment as joy, compassion, feelings of contentment, peace, like this. And then having an effect of creating this fulfillment as money, wealth, success, even relationships, health, adventure, fun, stuff like this that is an expression of this sound. It really is an all-encompassing sound that can create what Dr. Pillai calls a 200% life, 100% spiritual wealth, 100% material wealth. So typical way of using Brzee is the most basic way, which is just because it's simple and basic, do not mistake it, is very, very powerful. Is just what's called chanting or japa. Brzee, 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 Brzee. You can sit down and do this dedicated, or you can do this or you can also do this throughout the day. As I'm going about the day, I'm constantly trying to remember Brzee, thinking about it, saying it, whatever I'm doing, I'm trying to Brzee, Brzee, Brzee. This is stage one of a full stack meditation called samyama. Samyama is a process of taking a sound in its grossest form, it could also be a thought or an affirmation, and subtilizing it down to a point where you are merged with that, and therefore you become it, and therefore you express it. The more subtle it becomes, the more powerful it is. So at the grossest level, you have the spoken word Brzee, which again is extremely powerful. Then when you think the sound Brzee, that's more powerful. That is, of course, if you're able to do so without interrupting your focus. If you're trying to think Brzee and you also are having trillions of thoughts bombard you, go and speak it out loud. And when you're ready to take it in, then you take it in. So don't. What I'm trying to say is don't rush it. There's no point in rushing it, and to be honest with you, I will do everything. I don't limit myself. I don't just limit myself to thinking it. I'm also speaking out, and I find that to be sometimes even more powerful. But subtilizing it into your subconscious and unconscious means it goes from a spoken outer effect, thinking it, and then it becomes a point where the sound is there without having to think about it, and then it goes to a point where the thinker and the thought merge as one. So in this process, what I've been guided to do, which when I share stuff with you, it's not just stuff that I'm regurgitating, it's always stuff that I'm actively doing, that I'm finding results with, because as I engage myself with things, I get downloads, I get insights, and I like to pass the ones that stick out the most to me to people, and that's how I do this to these videos. So the one that's come to me about Brzee, one of two is Dhyan. This is the second stage. So if japa, which is the chanting, is stage one, that's called dharana. The second stage is dhyana. Dhyana means, I will use an analogy for this. If japa is like pouring water where the water drips, dhyana is like pouring oil where there's no interruption. Similarly, with chanting and thinking the sound Brzee, 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 dhyana stage is where you almost like you mentally and emotionally hug the sound, and there's no interruption. You're not thinking the sound where there's a Brzee, stop, Brzee, stop. Brzee is just there. It's almost like you're hugging and holding on to this reverberation. And through your focus, you're able to hold that reverberation so it remains there. Now, as I had to learn a long time ago when doing these techniques, you cannot put them into words. It's an experience that must be had. And once you have the experience once, the light bulb will come on. You'll say, oh my God, now I know exactly what he's talking about. And then you'll be able to do it more. So the best way is you have to experiment. Now, would I recommend to do this? If you can liken dhyana stage to like holding your breath. So breathing is breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, just like this. Brzee, 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 brzee. There's interruption. Dhyana stage is like holding your breath. You're not physically holding your breath, but you're holding the sound just like you'd hold your breath. So what I recommend is you do brzee, 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 and then you hold. And you focus on brzee is just there. Do it for like a second or two. And then go back to chanting. And then over time, you'll be able to hold on to it for longer, until you are able to hold on to it for a steady period of time. Now, even me, who's been doing this for years, I'll hold on to it for an extended period, then sometimes I'll just have to bring brzee back to my mind, and then I'll drop back down again. Back to my mind, drop back down. And just practice, experiment. Why are you doing this? It's very, very powerful when you do this. So if you're able to hold on to brzee, I forget the exact number that they put this, but something like, it's equivalent to like saying the sound thousands of times per second or something. It's something ridiculous like this because you're holding it without interruption. It's just there. So remember, it's almost like holding your breath. And what I do is I also mentally and physically like hug the sound. It's again, something you can't put into words, but that's kind of what I focus on is doing this. And it becomes easy, just like anything else that you do over time practice with. That's number one. The second thing that I've been called to do is meditate on the concept. So as I'm chanting brzee, as I'm meditating on brzee, brzee I am. Now what's the difference between brzee I am and I am brzee? I am brzee. And this is an intellectual thing. That you don't have to know this. I'm just saying this so that you understand on a superficial level, so that way it helps you attach meaning to what you're doing. I am brzee means I am brzee. There's a difference between me and brzee, as opposed to brzee I am. Brzee I am means I am brzee I am. We are one. So when you do the whole samyama stage, eventually you get to a point where you're holding on like imagine the dripping water to oil. There's a stage that goes past that where even when you're holding on to the sound without interruption, there's still a thinker and there's a thought. There comes a stage after you do that part for long enough where the thinker and the thought merge together. And that's when it's brzee I am. You become brzee. Now you can apply this to any mantra you're working with or any affirmation or whatever you're doing. It could be also a form of an angel or a god or goddess. Visualizing their form, then holding on to the form, and then becoming the form. Like this, brzee I am is a concept. If you're not using brzee, whatever you're using, work with this as a concept. So when you're using brzee, why are you using it? Brzee I am. And when you identify yourself as brzee, it's much more, I find it to be much more powerful when I say my affirmations. Now, it's not Ryan saying the affirmations, brzee themselves is saying the affirmations. Now, if you watch my past videos about manifestation and building memory in advance, you understand why it's important to, why we're writing things in the present tense, why we are pretending of being something that we're not, even though it's such a, how do I say this? What you're doing is you are building the memory in advance, the software. So by saying brzee I am, you are building the software and the memory that you are brzee, and the end result of that is you become brzee. So manifestation means, in the context of creating something new outside of what you're currently manifesting on autopilot, is building memory or planting memory in advance that's not currently there. So between your ancestors and the imprint at your birth, when you took your first breath, and all these things, you're programmed a certain way, which is manifesting the effect of your relationships, your health, your money, your success, or lack of any of these things. If you want to create something outside of this program that you're running, you have to build new memory in advance. And the way to do that is present tense, thought, and emotion. And so I'm not going to go too deep. I have videos about this you can go and dive into, but I wanted to share those two things. Work on brzee in a state of dhyana or without interruption. And also identify yourself, brzee I am. Make that an affirmation or concept and experiment. As I always say, the worst thing you can do by experimenting is nothing will happen, but the best thing is your life will change. Leave any comments or questions or feedback underneath this video. I would love to hear from you. And as always, wishing you the best. God bless.